Welcome back to the Faceoff. Now, social media allows for fans to connect with their favorite teams, such as the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Philadelphia Flyers, you name it. But how should that team run their Twitter account? The big debate that happened ever since the LA Kings made headlines with their Twitter account is, should a team's Twitter account remain strictly professional and just only give updates that are purely objective to the game, or should they show a little personality? I think they should show I think they should show a lot of personality, because that makes the hockey viewing experience that much better. There are three teams who have notoriously funny Twitter accounts: the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Los Angeles Kings, and the Dallas Stars. Now, I'm sure there are a lot more, but here are the three that I will talk about because I follow them. The Blue Jackets at the 2012 trade deadline, they traded away players like Antoine Vermette, Jeff Carter, and Sammy Paulson. It was a major fire sale for the Columbus Blue Jackets. And people kept asking the Blue Jackets just about the trades, and the account started to have some fun with it. Somebody wrote to the Blue Jackets that the Blue Jackets were confusing their fans by having two Johnsons on their team with Aaron and Jack Johnson. So Columbus wrote, they'll be wearing different numbers to ease the confusion. Just terse, but still kind of funny at this point. Then another person asked, will Carter be in the lineup, or is he literally gone? And then the Columbus Blue Jackets replied, he is literally gone. So then the fans started catching on to this thing and realizing that the Blue Jackets were interacting with the fans and starting to have a little fun with what was a very trying period for this team. The best one, this is my all-time favorite one, is somebody asked them, do we still have the cannon, or did it get traded too? And the Blue Jackets replied, the cannon is untouchable in trade talks. Like I said earlier, this was a very rough period for the Blue Jackets, but the Blue Jackets Twitter account made things a lot funnier, and something that made that period of time for the Blue Jackets a little bit more bearable than it probably would have been otherwise. Now, during games, the account, the Blue Jackets account, doesn't hold back its personality. When the Blue Jackets go on the power play, they sort of mimic their PA announcer in Nationwide Arena by saying, Jackets on the power play! Try not to peek the mic there. And when the Blue Jackets take a penalty, they decide to write womp womp when their team gets on the penalty kill. They're making fun of their own team in the middle of the game, which is kind of funny, honestly. And there also appears to be, with the Blue Jackets Twitter account, to be a strong Twitter bromance with the LA Kings Twitter account, who I will now talk about right now. The LA Kings Twitter account is probably the funniest and snarkiest team Twitter account in the NHL, and still is always a subject of major controversy. Numerous complaints from fans of other teams have stated that the account is unprofessional, totally classless, and shouldn't belong in the National Hockey League. Whoever runs the account needs to be fired. Other fans of the account, or I'm included in this category, find it completely hilarious, and it's a breath of fresh air for team Twitter accounts. They really made headlines, though, after Game 1 of the 2012 Stanley Cup playoffs against the Vancouver Canucks, when they wrote, instead of just saying the Kings win, they wrote, to everyone in Canada outside of BC, you're welcome. Dean Lombardi, the GM for the Kings, actually came out to apologize for what the account wrote because it caused such an uproar, especially with, obviously, the Canucks fans. The Kings won the next game, though, and decided to refer to what Dean Lombardi said, saying, we apologize in advance for anyone this tweet offends. LA Kings lead the series 2-0. So the account is having just a lot of fun, obviously, with the fact that the Kings were doing pretty well in this first round of the playoffs, and, of course, just making fun of the Canucks at their expense. Now, throughout the playoffs, they were chirping teams left and right on the other accounts, and one of the most notable ones was before the Stanley Cup final started, when they wrote, what else is, or something along the lines of, what else is there to do in New Jersey besides fist pumping? To which many New Jersey fans were telling the New Jersey Devils Twitter account to respond, and finally they did. They told them a few things that you could do in New Jersey. The LA Kings Twitter account made the 2012 playoffs so much more enjoyable for fans whose teams were not in the playoffs. Now, as I mentioned earlier, they do have a funny bromance with the Blue Jackets Twitter account. One day, they decided to call Columbus Lumbus. They took out call in Columbus, And then that nickname has just stuck with them. They actually cheer each other on for each other's games, which is highly amusing. They also aren't afraid to chirp opposing fans. An angry Red Wings fan, this is in February 27th, wrote, "I hope whoever runs this account dies tomorrow," which that's not a classy thing to write. To which the Kings responded in kind, "Luckily, this account is run by an automated robot incapable of death." There are many good chirps that this Kings account has written in the past, but that was one of the funniest ones that I have seen in recent memory. Now, the Kings Twitter account has inspired other teams to sort of follow suit, one of them most notably the Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars dropped the biggest mic drop tweet before the season even began, but before then the account was not largely known for having a little personality. They were simply sort of like an RSS feed that I mentioned earlier, or that some other teams employ in the NHL. You see a lot of MLB teams employ just a strict professional, like this is what happens in the game. Anyway, so before the season began, somebody in the Dallas Cowboys media department accidentally tweeted in response to somebody that he knew, saying that he was excited about pitchers and catchers reporting for spring training in 6 weeks. He accidentally tweeted from the Dallas Cowboys account, similarly in the category of nobody cares, the NHL is back. Well, the tweet was deleted, but not before, because in the age of the internet, what goes on the internet stays on the internet when people with the right set of skills screen cap it. So the Stars got wind of the tweet the very next day, and what they responded was beautiful, or how they responded was beautiful. They wrote back to the Cowboys, "At least our number 9 got the job done," and posted a picture of Mike Modano holding the Stanley Cup. This was a clear burn of Tony Romo, and NHL fans around the NHL fans around the country loved it. In fact, I actually got wind of this from a Vancouver Canucks fan who mentioned it to me. And the writer for Broad Street Hockey, the managing editor, Travis Hughes, who also edits SB Nation NHL, he wrote, "Who just became a Stars fan? Everybody just became a Stars fan." So NHL fans around the league were very happy with how the Stars handled this account, or how the Stars handled themselves in this little spat. And it's still ever since then, the Stars have not been afraid to chirp at opposing teams. Last night, especially, the Kings wrote after the Stars took the lead, "Chason gets an assist playing in his 4th NHL game. Also released his solo violin covers album today." So the Stars wrote back, "Limited edition vinyl comes out next week. Tell your hipster friends." But they weren't done that night. Earlier that day, the Anaheim Ducks tweeted that they could clinch a playoff spot if the Kings beat the Stars. Well, the Stars won 5-1, as I talked about earlier, and the Stars responded to the Ducks by sending them a picture of Dikembe Mutombo from the Super Bowl commercial, the Geico commercial, in which he's swatting things away and super happy, wagging his finger with the caption underneath reading, "No, no, no, not today." Now, the Ducks responded in kind, "Nice win, boys, we can wait." So the banter between team social media accounts is probably the closest thing fans will get to the chirping that goes on between teams, since they can't hear what is said on the ice unless they're watching 24/7 for the Winter Classic. Teams with social media accounts that show personality make watching hockey so much better than it already is. And welcome back. It was a brief station identification pause. Earlier in the broadcast, I have to apologize because I am running out of time. Early in the broadcast, I promised you guys I would give some consumer advice on how to go to games at Honda Center, Staples Center, and HP Pavilion. But unfortunately, I have run long on my segments, and I am officially out of time because Conrad Wilton will not have enough time to prepare for Conrad's Corner if I do not wrap up the show right now. So unfortunately, I will have to give those thoughts next week on the arenas that I went to. You have been listening to The Faceoff on KXSC Always on the air at 1560 AM radio, on the web at kxsc.org, and on your smartphone on the TuneIn Radio app. Thank you for once again tuning in to a Wednesday edition of The Faceoff. I'm your host, Graham Jenkins. I sincerely apologize for making a broken promise, but I will make that up next week on Monday's broadcast. Thank you very much, and have a lovely rest of Wednesday.